So if you'd like to kind of give a little introduction of yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Andreas Freund. I am currently working for Tata Consultancy Services and am the head of technology for the TCS blockchain practice. In that role, I oversee technology development, partnerships, ecosystem curation, adoption, as well as solution development and architecture, and as well as business development. However, not here to discuss this role. I'm going to talk and speak about my passion and love for the blockchain ecosystem, and I believe that it is going to change the world as we know it. Tell you why I strongly believe that is the case, based on facts rather than wishful thinking and fiction.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Anyways, one of my first questions would be that since blockchain is kind of now in the hands of innovators, so what steps should be taken to bring blockchain from the early adopters to a majority? What will the stage involve to make it a real problem solver?
In order to answer that, let me take you back to the early days of the internet. The reason how we evolved beyond the Novell networks, the walled gardens of the AOLs and the CompuServe was pretty much driven by three factors, two of which were the ones that really made the internet how we see it today. Number one was the decision by Microsoft to include TCP/IP in Windows 95. With that decision, you de facto created the data exchange standard for the entire world, because Windows was at that point in time on 98+% of all desktops and servers and budding laptops. So that effectively crushed the Novell network traction. And the second one was the invention of search, effective search, what Google did. The third one was when everybody was using email. So because that went to the saturation and usability of the new tool, right? So you didn't know that there was this thing called TCP/IP underneath it, but it just works. All of a sudden, I could send emails from AOL to CompuServe to Hotmail to all the other providers that suddenly popped up between 96 and 98, right? The Yahoos and so forth. So everybody had their own, all of a sudden, their own email service. So why is this relevant for blockchain? Because it teaches us what's important. It's important to have some form of common understanding around an exchange protocol. And you have to make it easy and have a compelling value prop at scale, not just for 5 or 10 or 100, but for a few hundred million. That's why I strongly believe the path to blockchain adoption is to find the right value prop that is true for hundreds of millions of people, that speaks to them. So one of the things that blockchain does, and that's why I believe also it's absolutely a game changer, is because it automates and exponentiates trust. Trust relationships, physical strength, and intelligence, human intelligence, are the three pillars of everything that you see around us. So the steam engine automated and exponentiated physical strength, and it was the most important event in human history based on all available metrics. That was the automation exponentiation of factor number one. Blockchain automates and exponentiates factor two, which is the trust relationship. Why is that important? Human beings crave connections with others, but evolution has made us very cautious approaching others we don't know. Now, blockchain can enable us to lower that barrier because it now automates these trust relationships. I can prove things about myself that are verifiably true because someone else who you trust actually said, yes, that's true, right? And he said, hey, he's a good guy. You're like, oh, okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. So you're more willing to engage, which is important because that's what all humans want. So because blockchain does that trust automation, if you find the right use case that enables trust to be established instantaneously for a large swath of people, you have the proper adoption use case. Give you one example. Take educational certificates. If you issue them on a blockchain, for example, MIT does that now for, I think, all of theirs. They're backing them up on a blockchain. And you can actually have them, leverage the power of social media platform. You can now then put your MIT students can now put their educational certificates in a provable form directly on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Indeed, on Instagram, on Snapchat. They can now make it available to a wide audience instantaneously and verifiably so. Here's it, check it out. That's the hash, that's the signatures here, little app, check it out. QR code. Oh, wow, yeah. You actually have a computer science degree from MIT. Provably so, because MIT said that's true. You don't have to carry around paper anymore. You can make it available to anyone. Take another case, take a dating service. Now imagine, take the KYC that your bank did on you, turn around and splash it on Tinder, on Match.com, on eHarmony. Suddenly you can prove that you're actually real and not a bot and not fake. Okay. That lowers the barrier to initial interaction, makes it easier, makes it more trustworthy. I know you're not a bot. I don't have to see you, and I know you're not a bot. So my willingness to engage with you just goes up. So these are the type of use cases that deliver significant value, meet basic human needs, and at scale. Those are the type of cases that I'm pursuing. Okay. And that I believe will drive large-scale adoption.
Let me do a follow-up question on the MIT example. So MIT puts the degrees and the certificates on the blockchain, so there's a hash, I can use that, I can demonstrate that. But you're still basically trusting MIT to put that certificate there. It's really MIT you're trusting, not the blockchain, correct?
Well, you're trusting MIT because you can verify their digital signature, but you know that that proof can never be altered. So there is no one else can take that and say, oh, I have a computer science degree from MIT. That's not possible. And you cannot go, let's say you have, it's not a hypothetical. It's like, it was at CMU. There was, who was from the Me Too movement. He had some honorary doctorate degrees and they were revoked. I forgot exactly who it was. That revocation is then also captured on the blockchain. And now he can say, wait, no. It was revoked right here. Here's the proof. No one can change that proof. That's the key point. Yes, you're trusting someone else to have done that, but you're doing that in real life all the time. Except now you can do it at scale and it's transparent for everyone. You don't have to carry around your certificate and then it's a copy and then you need to get it certified and blah, 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 right? So it's there for anybody to see, for anybody to verify. You do some, here it is, go ahead, right? Here's a QR code, scan it in, check it, you're done. So identity-based use cases are, in my opinion, the initial stepping stones that will drive large-scale blockchain adoption.
Kind of then a follow-on question to that is a discussion on, so what do you think are the vertical industries that would benefit most from blockchain adoption? Yeah, I mean, we've already talked about identity, but well, there must be others that
identity is a fundamental problem in every single vertical. It just is, whether it's supply chain, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's transportation, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's building turbines, it doesn't matter, right? Airline industry, travel, every single vertical has a fundamental identity issue. You're resolving that in a transparent, trustless way. You are enabling automation and verification, enable entirely new incentive models that align participants on purpose. Give you one example. Let's take the telecommunication industry, and let's take field service. Huge issue. There are regulatory agencies have pulled a stop on fiber deployment that is important for 5G because the quality of the field service is so poor in certain areas, the complaints are so high, you cannot provide reliable service. Why should you be? So it's a huge issue. It is effectively an issue of identity plus incentives. How so? A typical service agent is not paid right away. It's typically paid 30, 60, maybe even 90 days later. What if you were to say, hey, if you certify that you installed this and customer signs it too, digital signature, this is true, this equipment was installed, cannot be reused again, inventory, huge issue. You're verifying that event took place and it was done. Then I'm paying you right away. How about that? But not 100%. I'm paying you, let's say 60%, 70% right away. And the other one, that's your stake. If you're good for 30 days, 45 days with no issues, you're going to get paid right away. You're going to get paid the rest. Okay. But every single you have, it accumulates. So the outstanding stake increases, especially if you're successful, you're growing your volume, your outstanding stake will increase. That aligns the incentive to be truthful and to do high quality service, because now you're incentivized to do that. And how do you get people to buy in on that? By paying them right away. So why would telco providers do that? Because now with a blockchain backed system with verifiable claims based on identity, you have provable stuff in your hand that you can punish bad actors, right, and reward good ones. And you get people, the service providers, to buy in because they're getting paid right away. Not everything, but a lot of smaller ones, for them, that's a huge deal. So thinking about the right incentive models, aligning that, putting the trust anchor blockchain underneath it gives you a great use case that's being implemented.
How does that differ from a traditional system where I'm the telco and I put in a traditional system where I'd have the field service person log in, do the scanning of equipment, do the verification, do the other thing. And if I say, okay, that's good, I still pay the same amount and I still do that same type of incentivization. How does that different from the blockchain? What do I gain with blockchain other than, everything is signed, but I'm already the single telco. I'm already the one dealing with all the service providers individually or multiple service providers. I have to do that. So where's the difference?
Because you're saying that never happened. Oh no, that was not me. Or no, that never happened. Right? Just because you have a work order open and because someone closed it doesn't mean that actually took place. So you have collusion going on. Even individual business unit colluding against corporate, also with equipment. For example, you're taking a desktop box, it doesn't work, you switch it out. You're not going to change that, right? But if you can't reuse that box anymore because you have it blocked out, all that stuff is not directly, you cannot do this quickly enough because it needs to then sync across 50 different systems. You have your FSM, then you have your ServiceNow that integrates into your ESB, that then integrates into your ERP, SAP, MM module, etc. If you're lucky. You have different data silos that you need to replicate across. You need to build integrations. For this, you don't need it. You're just saying it was used or it was not. You sign up, was this used? Yes, not. Whether it syncs back into the system or not, that can happen later on. You have much quicker finalization. Let's call it economic finalization than previously, irrevocably so. So that's a significant value add that is very hard to achieve with current systems. Current systems are really good for, you don't want to build a decentralized work order management system. Not necessary. Completely, it's not. You don't need that. What you need is the proper registration of events with the proper identification of the participants that cannot be disputed, that can be made transparent to all in real time. And so these are add-ons. They're not, and it's all about, blockchain is about dispute resolution or non-repudiation. That's what blockchain is really good for. Again, trust anchor.
Okay.
Right? Because in this environment, no one trusts one another, right? So that's what it's useful for. For these instances, not for the work order flow. No. It is for capturing the critical events that trigger contract clauses or payments or audits, right? So that you can put a collusion resistant audit layer on top of that. There are ways how you can structure that are based actually on game theory. So that, again, incentivization through staking, alignment of goals is really important. And that is something that blockchain does well because it allows it to execute things in real time and amongst counterparties, and it's transparent, and you don't need to recreate and pull data from 50,000 different systems.
One of the things you've talked about, is trust. And once the information is there, no one can change it. No one can do anything with it. No one can modify it. So one of the things here is, obviously, blockchain's benefits is it's immutable. So what do you think happens once private information or something that runs afoul of legal regulations gets into the blockchain? What, in your opinion, should be done or could be done to resolve those issues? So say someone goes and steals all my private data, all my financial data, social security, date of birth, everything like that, pushes it out on somebody's blockchain, something. What do you do? What, in your opinion, should be done or could be done to prevent things or fix things like that?
If they steal it and they put it out on the dark web now, as they do already, and yours is already out there, by the way, that's the same effect.
Okay, but can't I go? I mean, eventually
you can't do anything. What are you going to do now?
Yeah. So there's no legal authority that could potentially take down those web servers where that information is, or do you think they've already, the dark web's already put it into a blockchain someplace? And
dark web already has a dark market that runs on that. You can never take it down. It's
okay.
You buy both sides. You know, it's like it's neither black nor white, right? So yeah. And then the point is, the current blockchains are obviously not the end of the story. They're just the very beginning of the beginning. There are a lot of things that need to be done. For example, if you're participating in a blockchain, you can establish a public permission chain where the nodes are actually permissioned. There's consensus, a consensus algorithm that runs that has certain requirements attached to it that new node providers need to fulfill. They can do that while remaining, quote unquote, anonymous. However, you can still fulfill regulatory requirements. So I can still give proofs that I'm not in an OFAC country, that I can provide, source of funds trace, and I can do that all in zero knowledge. It's just that the regulatory environment hasn't evolved to the point yet where they can wrap their heads around. That's why it's important to create the right sandboxes to enable the regulators to see how these things can evolve if done right. There's a lot of good lessons that you already take from Bitcoin and Ethereum and things you will not repeat, right? So for example, you need more robust governance structures that are actually built into the protocol level. Exchange facilities built into the protocol level, reputation built into that. One example is the entry points to the blockchains right now are typically run through centralized exchanges. Not only are they single points of failure, they are also doing or enabling something which is actually bad because they have subverted the original intent. So competitive markets, by seizing upon an arbitrage opportunity, have subverted the original intent of, for example, Bitcoin and Ethereum as actual alternative currencies, because now, because of their price increase, they are not really practical to run on Ethereum, at least, smart contracts at a meaningful scale because of the price of Ether. Because it's hard for the average person to acquire enough Ether to run a meaningful business on it. Bitcoin transaction fees are very high. So that is counter to the original intent. Why? Because there were no defined interfaces when those platforms were launched. Because no one knew, right? No one knew what the outcome would be. Now we know the next iteration of these platforms will incorporate more and more of those learnings into the platform itself, into the protocol itself.
One of the things is, like, in the case of anonymity and controlled identity access, the need to know basis blockchain. And so what are the security mechanisms that you envision? And should there be regulation in a trustless environment? How do you fight fraud, money laundering, terrorism? Is it more of what we were just talking about? More governance, more?
It's better governance, better protocols, more transparency, more accountability through better identity systems, right? I mean, if you had an identity, and even if it were just a hash of something, but that that belongs to someone, and if that someone, I don't care where you are or who you are or what you are, if you're doing something bad and you can be censored through a consensus algorithm of the participants, and that will shut you out of the ecosystem that you've done damage in, that's fine. And anybody else who then sees it knows that that individual did something bad, provably so. So there are ways to do that. A white paper about that, how to structure decentralized, socioeconomic, incentive-driven, and consensus-controlled economies.
We've talked about, and you've mentioned more or better governance. So would the better governance be what we've just talked about as far as more consensus and being able to identify someone and make that?
Things like that. Again, consensus that is incentivized, that's aligned with the purpose of the ecosystem. And that's important. There's a lot of research that shows that once there's a purpose, and Ethereum is a great example, right? From nothing, a white paper by a 19-year-old kid at the end of 2013 to now, not even 4 years later, is unbelievable. We can do a lot when the purpose is aligned and the vision is there.
Okay.
So, and we need to leverage that more deliberately.
Okay.
Right. So it's rather than, someone can come up with something and then people feel attracted around it. It's more of finding the purpose that around things that people are attracted to. And then because they will come and then join, and if you have the right governance in place, and the governance will change, right? You evolve as you know more, and you'll be able to change your consensus mechanisms. And again, that's why I talk about the protocol layer and the application layer on top, and then the cross ecosystem layer on third layer. We need the right structures in all of them, and that will take time. Okay. It'll take time and experimentation, and no one knows yet what's going to happen. No one knew, ICOs. Oh my God, right? Token economies. They were thought about in like 2015, 2016. No one would know that a year later they would explode. It's a great example of how people can seize on an opportunity and see, I can realize my vision a lot faster if I open this up and show it to the world. Of course there's abuse. Of course there are a lot of stupid people. But if you look at basic stuff, you're like, this is fundamentally the right approach. It's the most democratic approach. It's the most transparent. It's the most accessible approach. Will it lead to misuse? Always. Will people get hurt in doing so? Always. Will we learn from those mistakes, iterate, and do better? Always.
Well, actually, that's something kind of interesting. Now, blockchain is not cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is not blockchain, right? But the two, everybody kind of equates the two in many ways, wrongly or rightly, depending on which way you look at it. But now that we're kind of talking about like Ethereum and cryptocurrency, so what do you think of like regulators right now, different countries stomping on or trying to put in place different ways to regulate cryptocurrency? Do you think that's the right thing to do? Do you think they need to do more? Do you have any thoughts on that?
They need to do things differently than they have done before. Why is that? Because the technology itself is different from what they're used to, what has been there before. The historian Ian Morrison of the steam engine, it made mockery of all that came before it. It's the same thing with blockchain. Blockchain is making mockery of all that ever came before it, because it's a fundamentally different technology. It's a we technology. It's not an I technology. It's not about competition. It's about collaboration. But the regulators are caught in a mindset of, we need to make sure that no one cheats one another in the competitive marketplace, the I mindset. So what's important for the regulators is to understand that this is a move towards a collaborative economy of shared assets, nested assets that will drive innovation a lot faster. However, they need to be helped because the competitive, the bad elements, the ones that want to just make money, the I mindset, will try, as evidenced with Bitcoin and Ethereum and the others, will try to take advantage of these fledgling ecosystems, not to help, but to extract value for their own personal gain, nothing else. So the regulator's job, in my opinion, is actually to protect these emerging and fragile ecosystems.
Okay.
By requiring interfaces between these ecosystems and competitive markets, by requiring reciprocity between the interaction through these interfaces. You need to give when you take. So that is, in my opinion, what regulators should be doing. But they're not equipped to do because they have no point of reference. So those who have gone before now, right, who stepped into this world, they need to guide the regulators and say, dude, We've done the ICOs. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let me tell you, and let's shape this thing together. That's actually what's happening, right? These type of discussions are actually happening. You know, the UK has sort of like carved out its fintech sandbox. The SEC is, on the one hand, is trying to protect investors, which really they're doing. They're protecting the investment banks because they're being left out in the cold out of a quasi-trillion-dollar market, and they're not happy about it. But at the same time, they're willing to listen to say, hey, there are really sensible things, people that are really sensible and they really want to do the right thing, right? Let's help them do the right thing. These discussions are ongoing. And does a Telegram need $1 billion to build its platform? No. So is it a nice validation of their vision and purpose and what people believe that they could make a difference? Yes, it is, right? So to find that middle ground, to find the right balance of keeping the bad actors at bay, not out, at bay, while at the same time allowing these ecosystems to grow, to flourish, to experiment with new things is important. Okay. So if we can strike that balance, if we can get, realize that this is something positive, it's not about competing with existing structures. It is coexistence. It is, just as founding fathers here say, it's like, it's the freedom of choice, right? Who are we to say, no, you can't do that? Does it hurt you over there? No. You can draw back to the founding values of the US and go, it's like, why? Enable them to do that. Enable the claims out there. Let them dig for gold or whatever. So
one other thing about public blockchains and cryptocurrency is that right now, over the last December, and I think it's tapered off a bit since then, when obviously December was the big Bitcoin run up, and now it's tapered off considerably, or lost value. But what do you see when trying to use some of these public blockchains for payment networks, transactions, putting there are certain companies that are trying to use, one of the areas that we're into is ticketing, and there's lots of people trying to do ticketing systems on Ethereum. But, blockchain and Ethereum, the costs to process and the time to process is gotten somewhat crazy at times, $20 in order to get a transaction to process in a reasonable amount of time. And even then, if you don't want to pay that, you're talking hours or days. What are your thoughts on that?
Coming back to what I said before, the competitive markets extract the true value by diverting the initial purpose. Okay. It was supposed to be like that. Scaling will improve, prices will come down, especially with plasma. And there are alternatives, right? Alternative concepts that are worth looking at and exploring. I would say, ticketing systems. Really, what you have there is a verifiable claim. Ticket issued to this identity, and is it being used more than once? That's really it. You don't need smart contracts for that. It's a verifiable claim. It's another verifiable claim that it was linked. There's a protocol that we're working on with Microsoft and others where you can put tens of millions of claims into one Bitcoin transaction or Litecoin, or anchor them into 6 different coins at the same time. Okay. So there are ways of doing that without requiring smart contracts and things like that. If you have more complex contracts, you need to, right? These 300, 400, 500 page documents, then you probably need smart contracts, at least for certain aspects. Again, more minimalistic than anything else. And definitely not something that you want to run on, something that really does not scale or will not be able to scale, such as like Fabric. So again, technical problems need to be overcome, but I think given where we are with new scaling approaches, I've developed my own, in collaboration with others, of how to run chains in parallel, which is sort of like a Plasma Lite version. There are many ways how to get to where you need to go. Okay. It will take a little while. Again, Rome wasn't built in a day, and the internet also did not come what it is now in 2, 3, 4 years. It took a few decades, and this will not take a few decades. When we will, if we replay this conversation we're having right now in 2020 and 2022, we're going to be like, wow, we're worrying about that back then.
I'll hold you to that. We'll try that.
We can.
Yeah, absolutely. just to kind of wrap this up, if there was one thing that you wanted to kind of impress upon people that you feel is the most important thing about blockchain, what would that be?
It's not a technology, it's a mindset.
Sounds good.
It's we, not I.
Mm-hmm.
It's collaboration, not competition. It's common assets. It's not competitive
Mm-hmm.
IP.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I thank you very much for your time.